Brandon Graham has been playing with a chip on his shoulder for the past 3 seasons. Pun absolutely intended. I just couldn't help myself. And many expect the once thought to be draft bust to break out in 2015. But the man who was taking a pick ahead of Earl Thomas and two ahead of Jason Pierre-Paul began to burst onto the scene once Jim Washburn was sent packing 3 years ago. No more injuries, no more obstacles, no more mercenaries like Jason Babin, no more Trent Cole. The 27-year-old Graham is finally getting his long-awaited opportunity. The Bitter Birds are here to discuss it. Mike Owens is here. I'm Adrian Fedke. Mike, let's talk about some Graham slams.
We're finally talking about Brandon Graham, who was almost a giant, actually. Pretty crazy to think about, but in the off season, he actually had a deal from the Giants, but he decided that he wanted to stay with the Eagles and play with Chip Kelly and really finally get his chance to shine here in an Eagles uniform.
Yeah, finally. Finally. It's like The Rock when he says, "Finally, The Rock has come back to Philadelphia." Well, he's finally getting his chance to start, and he signed a 4-year, $26 million contract in the offseason, which, quite frankly, is relatively cheap in my opinion, because I think Graham is a stud, and he's just always had an obstacle in his way, and he's finally getting that chance. I mean, like you were saying pre-show, he's only had one start the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, he's had plenty of obstacles along the way. I mean, really the biggest one was, 13 games into his rookie season in 2010, tears his knee up. And, well, that's a pretty big obstacle. And then he had to come back from that and deal with Jim Washburn, who was a guy that Brandon Graham didn't think too highly of.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. It's crazy because, I think Brandon Graham's been playing well for 3 years. And, I know a lot of people are like, well, he's ready to break out this year. He already has. Once the Eagles cut Jason Babin, Graham had 4 sacks in his last 5 games in 2012. Then 2013 came around, and I was like, all right, he's finally going to get his chance to start, blah, 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 blah. And then they signed Connor Barwin. And I was like, at first I was like, I didn't like the signing of Barwin. I was like, oh, man, I really wanted to see Graham get his opportunity. I really liked what I saw from him at the end of the 2012 season, but it just didn't happen. Once again, he was relegated to bench duty, and obviously Connor Barwin has come in and played stupendously. But to finally, finally, that word finally, he's finally getting that chance. And I expect huge things. Obviously he had the transition from being a defensive end to an outside linebacker. He's always had the pass rushing ability, but the fact that he can stop the run, he's a lot better now in pass coverage. I mean, we've been talking about it. I started watching all the Eagles games. Again, I just watched the St. Louis Rams game, so from last season. So I'm 5 games, into the season from last year. And I remember this one play in particular where Graham was covering Roy Halou on a wheel route, step for step with him. And I was just like, wow. Just didn't really expect that. He's taken some huge strides, and I'm telling you guys, he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, well, the Graham, he always has a chip on his shoulder because he's a guy that was, picked ahead of Jason Pierre-Paul. And people in Philadelphia always remember that, especially after Graham tore up his knee in his rookie season. People thought, well, we should have got Pierre-Paul then. But, Graham is a guy who is not a bust because, like we've been saying, he's shown flashes and he's broken through at times, but he's really never gotten that full chance to shine, which is very unlike Marcus Smith, who is a bust and can't even find the field right now. So with Graham, he looks like a new guy this year from the reports. He's the first one at the team facility out of all the players. He's winning in the weight room. Apparently, he's dropped about 10 pounds, and he's got some muscle. So that will help him with the ability to cover. And like you were saying, he already has the ability of the pass rush. But the key is with that, outside linebacker spot in the 3-4, he's got to be able to cover too. So they're hoping that he's going to be able to cover now as well, with him being able to, rush the passer too. So, things are looking up for Graham. And, from all the indications, from what he's saying, he's pretty pumped up about this season.
Yeah, to harp it on your point about him getting leaner, he's always had the upper body strength, and that's what's really helped him in his rushing ability. He rips inside, he wreaks havoc, right in the quarterback's face. He has a natural leverage to get underneath blockers. He's got a real, his strength at the point of attack is outstanding, and that 10 pounds that he's lost. He's already had like the athleticism to get out in the flat, takes away the quick slants. It's going to help him even more in that aspect. And the power again when he's engaged with a blocker inside the box, that helps him, stop the run as well. Powerful tackler, drives through ball carriers, finishes the play. I mean, the guy's outstanding, man. And we really got him for cheap. If according to Sport Rec, he's going to be the 15th highest paid outside linebacker in the NFL this season. And let's see. I got my notes here about who is ahead of him. All right. All right. I'll give you the top five in terms of pay. Justin Houston, $13.2 million. Jared Allen, $12.5 million. Julius Peppers, $12 million. Thomas Davis, $9.9 million. And Von Miller, $9.75 million. So you look at all five of those guys. The only two that I would probably take ahead of Brandon Graham are Justin Houston and Von Miller. All those other guys they're old, and and Graham's getting paid about half the amount of those guys.
Yeah, no, Graham is he's still very young, and plus, he really hasn't started that much in his career. I mean, he's only made 13 starts in his whole NFL career, so he's really relatively young in the terms of football age. I mean, his real age is 27 too, so he's a young guy, and he's ready to go this year.
Yeah, you look at the guy who's ahead of him, Pernell McPhee, 14th. I mean, Brandon Graham's a whole lot better than Pernell McPhee.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's for sure. So, people wonder, they were down on Graham for a little bit because he really, he kind of disappeared. And the reason for his disappearance was really because of Washburn. We all remember, the 2011 Dream Team when Washburn was here. He was a big fan of this wide nine system. Now, we didn't have the players and the linebackers to play the wide nine, but Washburn thought it was a good idea. And, Washburn and Graham were just not a good fit together. Graham recently talked about Washburn, and he said the low point was when Wash was here because Wash would make you feel bad, like you can't play at all. So obviously, by those remarks, Graham was not a fan of Washburn at all, and I think that in a way, it kind of seems like it put Graham in kind of a little bit of a depression here, but it seems like he's got out of his depression. Obviously, once Washburn decided they get rid of Babin, like you were saying before, Graham, kind of really had a little bit of a rebirth. So with Washburn gone, I think that the past few years here, Graham has kind of came back to life.
Yeah, the confidence thing was always lacking from Graham. You could tell from the first couple seasons, but once they sent Washburn packing, like I was saying, 4 sacks in his last 5 games. That's extraordinary, and he's been you look at last year, for instance, he had 5.5 sacks, and he played like a third of the team's snaps. So he's going to get a double-digit sack total this season. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. And obviously, like I was referencing earlier, improved run defense, improved pass defense. He's the total package, and again, I expect big things from him.
Yeah, we're expecting big things, and kind of, we got kind of lucky in a sense that he decided to stay here in Philadelphia, because we would have been, pretty thin at that outside linebacker spot if, Graham would have decided to go to the Giants.
Yeah, it would have been very, very thin at outside linebacker. God, who knows who we would have taken? Jason Worlds was the name that many were talking about for a while. And if you look at the Eagles' depth chart, it's still pretty thin at outside linebacker after Graham, and which you've kind of made this point before, and I'll let you say what you want to say because I don't want to take your idea. So, what is your idea of what the Eagles should do when Brandon Graham or Connor Barwin gets a little tired?
Yeah, well, even a while ago, the months back, when the Eagles acquired Alonzo in the trade with McCoy, and after they had re-signed Brandon Graham, it was obvious that we had three inside linebackers for only two spots. And even though that we have Graham on the roster here, I think that there's still pretty high chance of Kiko Alonso kicking out to the outside linebacker and taking away from some snaps away from Brandon Graham. And as we talked about Graham, we were saying that the biggest thing that he's improved on is his pass coverage. Well, Kiko Alonso is known for being a great defender against the pass. So I think in some situations, what they're going to end up doing is they might kick Kiko out to the outside in Graham's spot and take some snaps away from Graham.
Yeah, I love that idea too because if you look at the guys behind Graham and Barwin, you got Marcus Smith, Ryan Brayman, Travis Long, Najee not so good. I mean, it's slim pickings, and you're gonna have all these inside linebackers. You got Kendricks, you got Ryans, and you got Alonzo. So you got three guys for two spots. So obviously Kiko Alonzo at outside linebacker, I'm taking him over Marcus Smith every single time. I don't care if it says ILB on the depth chart. He can play a lot better than Smith.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So, like you're saying, I mean, we really have a log jam at the inside linebacker spot, but as far as the outside, not so much. So, that's why they're going to try to convert, some of these inside linebackers to outside linebackers for depth purposes, because there's really not that much depth there behind, Barwin and Graham on the outside.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, yeah, real slim pickings, like you were saying. And I guess we'll move on here. We weren't going to make this a long show. We kind of already talked about what we wanted to out of Brandon Graham. Kerry Williams, he just keeps yapping away. Just keeps yapping away. Saying that the Eagles practice too hard. It's funny that he says that because there's no one that needs more practice than Kerry, but he just keeps opening up his mouth. He can't shut it. What the hell's going on with him, Mike?
Yeah, well, this was not unexpected at all from Kerry Williams. Once he moved on from the Eagles and went to Seattle, it was only a matter of time before he opened up his mouth about Chip Kelly and his system. I mean, we all remember, last season, the Eagles had just come off a victory. Um, Obviously, everyone in the locker room should be happy, but Kerry Williams was not happy, and he had to make the comments about Chip Kelly and the practices, and really how the Eagles practice too hard, and they get tired by the end of the year, and those were kind of the same comments that he made here with Seattle in the past couple of days about the Eagles and Chip Kelly's system. So yeah, Kerry Williams is. A guy when we brought him in here, from Baltimore, obviously, coming off a Super Bowl there with the Ravens, we expected some big things out of him, but he never lived up to the expectations. And we were kind of joking before the show because his best game as an Eagle was his first game, really Monday Night Football against the Redskins.
Yeah, and that was it. After that, it was all downhill. He just really, really sucked after that. So, yeah, I mean, he Got burnt time and time again. Never put enough sunscreen on. So he's in Seattle now. Good thing for Seattle. It's not really sunny out there, so you don't have to get worried about getting burned. It rains all the time.
Yeah, no, that's true. You better make sure that he brings his umbrella though. But the one thing, the one thing about Kerry is he's like that dog. He's like a small dog that likes to yap a lot. You just barking all the time. But when you bring him into a dog fight, he backs away and he doesn't want to get into the fight. So we're better off without Kerry Williams. Um, Hopefully, Byron Maxwell and Nolan Carroll will be, bigger type of dogs that actually want to get into the fight.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Hating on Carrie. Hating on
Yeah.
Carrie Thursday, I guess it is now. All right. To finish off this show, let's make some projections on Graham's sack total this season. So I'll put you on the hot spot first.
Oh man, let's see. His sack total this season, 5.5 last year. I'm gonna say I'll go with 11. I think that he'll just about double it.
Son of a bitch. That's what I had. You know, I'll just half you. I'll say 11 and a half. All right.
There you
So
go.
I'm gonna win the Price is Right, bitch. When he goes for 12.
Yeah, I think that we can say for a sack range, I think it's going to be between 10 and 12. I would say it's going to
Yeah.
be somewhere around there. Really like it, but a lot of that is going to depend too on how much they decide to, kick Kiko out to the outside, like I was suggesting. If they, decide to do that, a little bit more than we expect, then that could take away from some of his sacks. So really the biggest impact will be that because we don't know what their plan is there for the inside linebacking spot.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be another show altogether. We'll see. Because yeah, obviously you got three players for two spots, but from what it sounds like, I would guess it's going to be Ryans and Alonzo.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I would imagine with the Eagles, taking Jordan Hicks in this year's draft, I would imagine that they're going to kind of groom him for, being an inside linebacker for the future. And, with D'Amico Ryan's age, you kind of figure he only has a few years left here in the league. So I think that, eventually, Jordan Hicks will step into that inside linebacker spot, and then you would pair him up with Kiko for many years to come. So this could very well be Michael Kendrick's last year in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it definitely will. So, yeah, they won't be switching to Kiko; they'll be switching to Jordan.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Jordan Hicks is going to be a guy to watch because he's kind of a guy. I think out of all the Eagles draft picks, he was definitely the most. It was the most surprising pick, I would say. It's probably one that most Eagles fans weren't that high on. I think everyone was pretty excited about the first two picks. They were, they looks like the Eagles did the right thing. But with that Jordan Hicks pick there, it was kind of a head scratcher. The guy obviously has talent, but he's had a history of injuries too. So he's going to be a guy to watch.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, I was on that bandwagon of not liking the pick. So, but Chip is a lot smarter than I am. So, we'll see what Jordan Hicks can bring to the table.
Yeah, we'll see. A guy to watch out for.
All right, so this pretty much concludes our show. Talked about everything we wanted to say today. Got some projections. Talked about Brandon Graham. Some other ideas from Mike Owen. We know how Chip likes to think outside the box. I think Chip will definitely listen to you on that opinion. And now this is the point where you give your final thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of surprising that Brandon Graham is still here because Chip Kelly has really done a nice job of getting rid of all the former Andy Reid players. There's not many left on the roster, so it's kind of surprising that Brandon Graham has made the cut. So Chip Kelly is obviously a fan of Graham. But we were talking before, about other guys that have departed, guys like Kerry Williams, LaShawn McCoy, um, you know, Deshaun Jackson is a name of the past now. But the one thing that you can really tell by these departures and additions is that, Chip Kelly is building culture here in Philadelphia. And, when he got here and last year, he was pretty close to having, everybody bought into his system. But now I feel like this year, this is a big year for Chip Kelly, and he's just about there with having the whole team bought into culture. So, getting rid of guys like Kerry Williams was huge. Obviously, he did not buy into the system at all. But, keeping guys like Brandon Graham, who we're talking about, showing up first in the weight room and to practice is key. So it's all about culture, and we'll see if it works. Chip Kelly believes in it, and he's really starting to develop his roster now. But Brandon Graham is a guy that was an Andy Reid guy, but ironically, he's a Chip Kelly guy too.
Yep. Yes, he is. All right. Great final thought. Great last little segment there from Mike. I'm Adrian Fedcue. That's Mike Owens. We're out of here. Take care and tune in next week to another show. Go Birds, baby.
Say.